All right, good evening, Facebook family. It's 9 o'clock Monday night. It is time for Pajama Praise. And listen, man, we have Brother Albert Joe Reed with us tonight and Evangelist Claudia Durant with us tonight. And listen, man, they put on their professional face right quick, but they have been jutting up already. So listen, we're planning on having a great interview tonight. Brother Albert Joe, we've been talking for a long time, talking about him coming up with Pajama Praise, and he is finally here. He has an incredible story. And tonight, we're going to learn about Brother Albert Joe Reed, one of the great musicians of our country, a great leader. He's from many groups, he's a recording artist. And so we're going to hear his story tonight. Evangelist Claudia, will you give us a word of prayer before we start?
Sure. Father, how we praise you and adore you. Holy name are. We thank you, oh God, for allowing privilege and an honor to come to Facebook to share, oh God, of your grace. Thank you, Lord, as we enter into the segment of what we're about to do now. We pray, oh God, that in our testimony, our lives and experiences, that thou would bless. We thank you, oh God, for that which he is doing now. Pray, oh God, for our enemy is defeated, going forward, how you're working it out for our good. Speak to us, oh God. Release us even now, God, as we search the hearts of each other, oh God, and as we come together and thank you for what you've already done. And you get all the glory. We say amen and amen.
Amen. Thank you. And so we're getting a bad echo from somewhere. So I'm not sure where the echo is coming from. Mr. Evangelist Claudia, can you turn your system down?
Turn the what?
Turn your volume down.
Okay.
Let's see if that takes care of it.
I still hear
you. Echo. So what about you, brother?
Let me see. Let me turn. Is it? I turned mine down. Is that better?
All right. Let's see if that took care of the echo. Okay, it's not as bad. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
I hear you.
Okay, great. So listen, y'all, again, tonight we have Brother Albert Joe Reed all the way from Killeen, Texas, Evangelist Claudia Durant all the way from Houston, Texas. And tonight we're going to talk about Brother Albert Joe tonight. Okay. And so I think we took care of the echo issue. Y'all let me know out there in Facebook land if we did. Listen, Sister Diane Murray, I see you there with us. Thank you so much for joining us. Sister Bertha Johnson, thank you so much for joining us. Sister Naomi Hill, one of my faithful choir members from Bethany Baptist Church, thank you so much for joining us. And I know others will be joining us tonight. And so listen, y'all, again, we have Brother Albert Joe Reed. And so Albert Joe, tell us, where were you born?
I was born in the great city of San Angelo, Texas, and out in West Texas.
Okay.
My parents met, and my dad was in the Air Force.
Okay.
Out there, and a few months later, the family moved to Midland, Texas, and that's what I call home.
Okay. And at what age did you move to Midland?
Oh, I was only a few months old. I was born in August, and we moved in December.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so you spent your childhood in Midland. Where did you go to elementary school in Midland?
Oh, he wants me to go way back. Ralph J. Bunch Elementary School.
Ralph J. Bunch.
Mm-hmm.
So in elementary school, were you involved in music or anything?
Yes, they discovered I could sing.
All
and
right.
and the music teacher was named Miss Upright, and she always did this when she thought you could sing. She was go, "Ew, that's good." Oh, anyway. And I remember singing the closing song at the end of the school year as we were sixth graders and we were going to matriculate to junior high. And she
Uh,
asked me to sing, and I can't remember the song, but she said, "You're not singing the correct words," so she gave them to me. But anyway, that was then.
wow. And so, had you begin playing at that time?
I started taking piano lessons at the age of 8, and from Um, he was a presiding elder Metcalf out of the United Methodist Church, and
Mhm.
he only charged me 50 cents, and that's I used my allowance to pay for my piano lessons.
Okay.
Didn't have a piano at home, but I imagined in my mind that I was on the piano, and so when I went to him, he said, "You playing marvelous." And so it was just a gift because my grandmother looked at me and she said, "Boy, you gonna play the piano?" Because I would pretend I was playing the piano at our stove in the living room. And she
Uh,
said, "My baby gonna play the piano."
uh, and so, before you went to piano lessons, had you ever touched the piano?
No,
Hmm.
I had not.
Oh, wow. And so the gift, God has a way of bringing out what he put in us, And so the gift was already in you.
Right,
And when you went to piano lessons, I mean, it just enhanced what you were already going to do. That's incredible.
right.
Hmm. And so you started taking piano lessons at 8. When did you start using those piano lessons publicly?
Publicly, let's see, I was 10, and I wanted to play for the church. Couldn't play very much, but that was my desire. And so
Mhm.
I could only play one song, and God rest those people's souls. I know they got tired of me playing that same song Sunday after Sunday. Do Lord, do remember me. That's all I knew how to play, and they were singing so vigorously, like they were it's first time singing, and then every Sunday I know for about a year. So I
Oh,
learned
wow.
another song.
Oh, wow. And so what was the name of your church there?
Greater St. Luke AME Church.
Okay. So did you grow up AME?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
Oh,
sir. Baptized and stayed there, still in the AME Church.
all right. And what is the AME church? What does AME stand for?
African Methodist Episcopal.
African Methodist Episcopal. All right. Listen, we got Dr. Cheryl Matlock on with us from Allen Chapel AME Church here.
Okay.
Amen. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Cheryl Matlock. We also have Dr. Kimberly Scales, one of my classmates on. And Dr. Kimberly Scales says she was in Paul Quinn College Choir.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Saying to Laura, remember me. Do you know a Laura, Albert Joe?
Laura. Oh my God. Not really, but I've come across a lot of people.
Okay. All right. And so, yeah, we have Pastor Cheryl Matlock with us at the Great Allen Chapel. And thank you for joining us, Dr. Matlock. And so when you went on to middle school, were you still involved in music?
Oh yes, I was. Of course, I had white teachers. There were no black teachers that I had in middle school, but the white teacher took up with me because she saw that I had a talent, and they asked me to sing at a talent show. And she said, "Because you have real talent." I remember her telling me that you have real talent, and I can't remember the song, but I think it was a "Dear Heart, I Wish You Were Here." da 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 da, and I got a standing ovation. And my mother and dad were there, and and they just stood. They were so proud. I'm going, what did I do? Yeah.
Yeah. And so you grew up around music, and so that's probably where some of that perfectionist in you came from. Would you say that?
Oh yes. Because my
Uh,
last piano teacher, who just recently passed in Houston, she was a perfectionist, and I remember her smoking Kent cigarettes. And when we were all of us students, when we would make a mistake on the piano, she would light up a Kent cigarette and go. Now you know that was a wrong note.
oh, well, yeah. Back in the day, everybody smoked, didn't they?
Yes.
And so you went on from middle school. Now tell us about Midland High School.
Oh, in Midland High School. Now I guess I was one of the crazy ones, but I didn't want to graduate because I enjoyed my high school so much. My senior year, I remember being voted as president of the Midland High Choir, and one of my responsibilities was to lead the auditorium when we had assemblies into the school song. Don't ask me to sing it because I don't remember it, but that was one of my responsibilities, and we did it. I had a good. Really, it was great. I had a great experience in high school. While in high school, we had to sing. The high school choir had to sing at one of our principals died, so we had to sing at his funeral. And that was my first time hearing a pipe organ, and it was Dr. Bob Poor. So I went to him and said, "I would like to learn how to play a pipe organ." He said, "I'll teach you." So he did that for a year for free.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah, so I do know how to play the pipe organ. So thanks to Dr. Poor.
All right. Well, listen, whenever I need a pipe organist, I'm going to call you to drive up from Killeen
Call me.
to pump some organ. Listen, we have some more people that have joined with us tonight. We have Minister Mary White, one of our members from Bethany. Sister Sheila Bryce, thank you, Mother, for joining us. Sister Catrice Reed with Loving Yourself Inside and Out. Listen, we have one of our great educators and church musicians on with us tonight, Miss Gwen McWilliams.
That's my friend.
Yeah, Miss Gwen McWilliams is a great musician, great educator, one of the people that paved the way for many musicians here in this city and across the country. Thank you for joining us, Miss Gwen McWilliams. And so you went on from Midland High School, and so now after you left Midland High School, what did you do?
I went on to Paul Quinn College in Waco.
Okay.
And there, I tried out for the choir, and Mr. Northington was our professor of music. And he says, "Oh, I got me a new lead tenor." I said, "Okay." And then he came into the practice room one day and I was playing. He said, "And you play?" I said, "Yes." So he said, "Do you read music?" I said, "Yes." So he said, "Well, you're going to be my assistant choir director." I said, "Okay." And while I was there at Paul Quinn, I formed the Echoes of Eden Gospel Choir. Now, it wasn't popular back then to have gospel choirs on campus, but we received some backlash from the administration. Finally, the president and his wife got on board with us, and they support us 100%. And we used to travel all the time, singing and recruiting students for Paul Quinn. So I enjoyed that, and we stayed together until we all graduated eventually from Paul Quinn College.
So let me ask you this: so did you choose Paul Quinn because it was an AME college?
Yes, I did.
Did you get a scholarship, or you just went on your own?
I just went on my own scholarship. Did they have scholarships back in that day?
Hopefully they did. But yeah, so Dr. Matlock told me to ask you about the Echoes of Eden Choir. Now, were y'all there around the same time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we were. And she knows how the president's wife loved us. We called her Aunt Jean.
Aunt Jean.
And everybody else had to call her Dr. Manning, but we called her Aunt. But
So who was the president
Echo,
of the college at that time?
who was?
Who was the president of the college?
During the time that I formed the Echoes, it was Dr. Reuben Manning.
Okay.
And and his wife just loved us. And I remember us used to have anniversaries. I started having anniversaries with the Echoes then. And she would decorate the church for us. It'd be lavish, be laid out. Whatever color we were going to wear that year, she would decorate the church with that. But we traveled all over. We were a bunch of students. There's about 40 of us. And we would get in our cars with those persons who had cars. And we take our little money and put it together, pool it together, and buy gas so we can get to where we were going. We traveled to Louisiana. We traveled to Midland. We traveled all over Central Texas, singing at different churches. And we were known as the singing choir.
Okay. And so let me ask you this. So why was gospel music kind of frowned on during your time in college?
I think they were not so much frowned on gospel music because our professor could not play gospel music, period. He was no, he could not do that. But I think, I don't want to say it, but I think there was some kind of competition there.
Okay.
We became more popular than the a cappella choir.
Right.
So
right. And that was always the case. Even two of my classmates are with me, Dr. Kimberly Scales and Jacqueline Foster Kelton. We attended O.D. White High School, and our choir teacher was Miss Jewel Kelly.
okay.
And so, we did the choral music, and, we polished that. But when we did the gospel music, that's when the people stood up and clapped and cried and,
Yeah.
That was the exciting music. They like to hear us do the Bach and the Beethoven and the Haydn and all of that. When we came out with some James Cleveland and Keith Pringle, those guys, I mean, that's what they really wanted to hear,
Right.
So look, I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. Yeah. And so let me ask you this, Albert Joe. So now when you were in college, you played at a church too, or what?
Well, I played at several churches. I can't remember. I know I played at a Baptist church. I think it was named Shiloh. And then I went from Shiloh to another AME church. They've since closed that church. And I played for St. Paul for a while. St. Paul AME Church is still in existence in Waco. It has a new location, but I played for that church as well for about 2 years or 3 years because Bishop Adams, I remember, was a bishop at that time of the Tisch district. And his wife was a member of St. Paul. And I used to play there twice a month. Get this, musicians, for $15. So glad I graduated from $15. But anyway.
Was that $15 a service or $15 for the whole month?
$15 per service. I played twice a month.
Okay. And so what were you like over the young adult choir or something?
No, I was hired to give the then organist a couple of Sundays off a month. Okay. Because he had been there for like 50 years and they felt that he needed some relief. And in comes Albert Reed, who could play and was an AME, and they hired me to do that.
Okay, wow. So even as a college student, you were very busy
Yes.
Playing in churches. So let me
Yes.
ask you this. So what was your college life like outside of music? What did you major in?
I majored in English.
Okay.
And I don't know why, but I majored in English. So if my English is broken up, it's because I've been out of the classroom for years. So I
Okay.
don't worry about speaking correctly as often as I used to. But I majored in English, and I taught. That's one of the reasons I came to Clean. I taught in the middle school system,
Okay.
6th, 7th, and 8th graders, and I was a reading specialist for KISD.
Oh, wow.
Also, I taught music appreciation.
Okay.
I was a accompanist for the choir. My principal
Okay.
hired me for that too. They discovered I could do music, so he put me in that position. So I was just all over the map.
So how long did you teach middle school?
Oh, Claudia, was it 15 years?
About that, yeah.
Yeah, and my doctor suggested I give it up because I started having problems health-wise, because I'd walk into school and my whole left side would go numb. Because I always got all the bad kids. Because I could handle them. I didn't play. I was taught by some black teachers, and I knew how to talk to us, to get us right.
Wow. So you did that for 15 years?
Yes.
All right. Well, kudos for you being a great educator. And so how did you get from Waco to Killeen?
I first went to Killeen, Claudia. The church was in that little white building.
The little one.
Little white building. And I was a part of a singing group that I can't remember. We were all guys that we sang together. And that was like in 75, I think. And we went there and I played. So I would go back at least twice a month and play for the services. Now I don't remember who the pastor was, but I became a permanent musician. I was a senior in college, and the pastor was James Anderson. I was at St. Paul. He recruited me from St. Paul. He said, "I need you to come to Killeen and help me build this church." So I went to that, and Anderson Chapel was a small church, small, and I took over. And I'd been there. I stayed there for how long? Probably 30 years.
30 plus.
Oh, okay. See, I have to have Claudia to help me remember because I'm kind of old.
So how far is Waco from Killeen?
45 minutes.
Okay. And so you did that, you commuted for how long?
I rode with the pastor.
Okay.
I didn't have a car. I wasn't blessed to have a car. I rode with the pastor, and we would go and spend the weekend. I stayed in a motel, and I don't know where he stayed, but I stayed in a motel, and did that until I moved and became minister of music there. In the beginning, it was great. I had to whip the choir in shape because I had teachers, I had the educators in the choir, and they would come and do their homework, grade papers and stuff during choir rehearsal. And I said, "Oh, no, we don't do that." They got out the choir though. But anyway.
So now, Claudia, Evangelist Claudia, were you already at Anderson Chapel when Albert Joe arrived?
No. I came to Anderson Chapel in the early 80s.
Okay.
By way of the military. And by that time, they were no longer in the small church. They were in the new church, the new edifice. And at the time when I came, the choir was a huge choir. It was like 35, 40, a very big established choir.
Okay. And so, you know what? I need to back up a little bit, Brother Albert Joe. I need to back way back.
Back up.
So the Southside Singers. We didn't talk about them.
Oh,
Tell us about the Southside Singers.
we were a group of teenagers, and the educators is doing Black History Month, and they came to a couple of us and said, "We want to do, we want y'all to put together a choir, and we're going to call y'all the Southside Singers for Black History Month." I said, "Okay." So we called in a couple of our friends who were one of our friends. She was a musician, and so then we got all the young people that we knew from our churches. My friend, God rest his soul, Gary Jackson's youth choir, and the youth choir I was over at St. Luke, and Norma Woodard was her name, and she pulled together the kids from her choir, and we formed the Southside Singers. And we sang our first song was "Oh Happy Day."
Okay.
We worked on that for weeks to sing at this program, "Oh Happy Day," and we just grew out of that. And we had kids come from. We were teenagers, so everybody joined the Southside Singers because that was the choir to be in. And we did one recording, and I don't remember the name of the album, but I know I wrote 2 songs on that, and the other musicians wrote songs as well. So. And I one of the members I know, he's about my age now. Gerald still has a copy of that album, LP.
Okay.
And because he put it on Facebook, I said, "Oh wow!" And so that was way back in the day, like in the '60s, late '60s.
And so, even as a teenager, you were progressive and making things happen.
Yeah, I think I was before my time.
And so let's move back to Killeen. So you commuted from Waco to Killeen, and you eventually ended up in Killeen permanently. Tell us a little bit about Killeen. I know a lot of people know the Fort Hood, but tell us a little bit about Killeen.
That was good.
When I first moved to Killeen, I said, "Oh, I like this little town. I think I'll move here." So I became a resident, and of course, I didn't have an apartment. I stayed with the pastor and his family. And Killeen was a small town. There weren't very many churches here at that time. And I settled here, and I started teaching and all that, and I got the choir together, and the pastor began to build a new edifice.
Okay.
And that was my purpose for being there. And we were progressive choir then. We had one set of robes, and we wore those there. We were known as the beige robe choir. And the people would come and say, "Ooh, that choir is so disciplined," because I didn't play. I was young and didn't play. But and then I took a nap one day, and Killeen is just booming. So we have churches everywhere now.
Okay. And so is Fort Hood still the main highlight there?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. We don't get to go on Fort Hood like we back in the day, Claude. You know, we used to go in and out of Fort Hood to musicals, but that's no longer happening since there was a killing or something there. It happened, and they closed the post up. So you can't go on Fort Hood unless you're a military or former military.
You know, I think I shared this with you back in the 80s when I was accompanying Miss Kelly. We went to a lot of the military bases. I didn't come to Fort Hood with her, but I went to Fort Bliss. We went to Alamogordo, New Mexico. We did a workshop at Carswell when it was here. And while we were at Fort Bliss, the chaplain from Germany called while we were there doing the workshop at Fort Bliss and said, "Tell them I want them to come to Germany." And so, you know how people will say something and you really don't put any stake in it.
Right.
Well, sure enough, we ended up going to Germany. We went to Germany in 1991 and did a workshops at actually 5 of the military bases in Germany. And so, I know it's a blessing to go to the military bases because, those people there are professionals.
Right.
And their concern is protecting the citizens of the United States. And then when you go and minister, and as you guys can attest, it's a blessing to go and share with the people on the military bases.
Right.
So tell us about your experiences working with some of the choirs and events at Fort Hood.
I remember Miss Kelly came to do a workshop at Fort Hood, and of course she called me and asked me to come and help her. So I did. That was my first. I remember my first involvement with any workshop. I was called in a few years back by what's his name? Steven Sproul. No, Stevens. What's his name?
Stephen Roberts.
Stephen
Roberts called me.
Okay.
And Stephen and I became good friends, and he did 2 workshops at Fort Hood. And Stephen had the run of my house because I was not cooking for Stephen. He had to cook for himself. But he asked me to come and help him. And I did that. I did that twice. But back in the day when Claudia joined the Anderson Chapel Choir, we were always out on Fort Hood at musicals.
So Claudia, where are you from?
I'm originally from Washington, D.C.
Okay. And so how did you end up at Fort Hood?
The military. My ex-husband was.
Okay. And so how long were y'all at Fort Hood?
That was it for me. Everything happened there. So it was it. That was it. Had already done all the traveling and everything. So, and then after we got divorced and everything, I stayed there.
So now, did you grow up AME?
No. I grew up under the good old Baptist church and going around the corner to the Church of God in Christ.
Oh, okay. So now, how did you end up at Anderson Chapel?
Well, actually, I was in Germany. We were stationed in Darmstadt, Germany, and when got orders to come to Fort Hood. I was told about to go to Anderson Chapel because that was the spot to go to.
Okay. So when you were in Germany, did y'all ever go to Grafenwehr, Germany?
To where?
Grafenwehr.
Yes. You know how you travel around because the good thing in Germany there at that time, back during those days, you were able to just move around, from chapel to chapel. And the thing was, everybody was away from home. So, that was your family,
Right.
And so, and was definitely excited as far as us to hear of somebody and a gospel service going on. So, you just gravitate to each other.
Right. And so now you said that you heard that Anderson Chapel was the happening place. Was it because of the preaching or because of the choir?
It was the choir. At that time, when I got there, service started at 11 o'clock. If you were not there by 10:30, you didn't get a seat.
Okay.
And there'll be people standing around the wall.
So now, how was it being in Brother Albert Jones' choir?
He's opening up a can of worms.
This is where we go downhill, bro. Your whole service about to change now. Well, Lord, where do I start?
Tell the truth, shame the devil.
Well, okay. When I, actually, when I first got there, and actually some friends of mine were there that I had met in Germany. They were there as well. They were members there. And so we were all excited. And he said, girl, I know you're going to get in the choir. And the choir was tight. I'm not even going to tell no lie. The choir was tight. And so, but my experience of the first rehearsal, I said, this boy is crazy. This boy is CRAZZZY crazy. He was sweet as long as you didn't put him in the church. I mean, outside, he'd laugh and talk with you. And then as soon as he get inside the church and sit on that organ seat, he was a monster. You know, he was crazy. But and then we were having rehearsals on Saturday, and we
Okay.
and singing the music that Sunday. So you already know there was no playtime. You know what I'm saying? So, but I mean, we didn't understand it then, but we all appreciate it now. Even those that may not say it, but we all do. We appreciate it now. We appreciate it. But the boy was crazy. No, no, Glenn, you understand. He was crazy. Albert was crazy.
Right.
I was strict.
You're strict.
Crazy.
And you know, and that, you know, that was pretty much a standard, you know, coming along, that, you know, most choir directors and musicians, I mean, but then, you know, it was a different time because choir members were committed, you know, and choir members didn't take it personal, you know. They knew they had a job, and you know, when you had people like Albert Joe to come along and polish them, seemingly the choirs back then didn't mind. Would you say that?
Albert was in a class all by himself. Can I say that? Really? There was the people that are choir directors, and then there was Albert. You know, you remember that song Jerry Butler sang years ago, Only the Strong Survive? You had to be strong. I mean, you know, we were 98% of the choir was built up of military. So all of us were away from home.
Right.
And so, but one of the things that I really loved about Albert is that he instilled within us the importance of that all we had was each other. We were a family, you know, and but he was, I mean, Albert was beautiful. He's sweet. He's my brother, you know, but still, it was just that he had a higher standard that a lot of us had never been exposed to. And so therefore, like I said, it took years to really look back at it and appreciate it now. But I mean, at the time, yeah, you know, we could see the fruit of it, but it was the process of going through it to get it. I mean, strict is not the word to say really what Albert was, but I mean, the boy was crazy. That's all I can say. The boy was crazy.
So
But
Albert,
Claudia,
what was your
Claudia
thought?
have to realize that we were required to travel. We were the church choir that was always invited to group anniversaries. So I couldn't play. I couldn't play with them.
So Albert, what was your thought process when you were getting ready for choir rehearsal and getting ready for service?
Okay, our choir rehearsal started at 2:30. I arrived at the church at 1 in order to meditate and so I could ask God what He wanted me to deliver to the people for Sunday. And if it was a choir from the gospel music workshop that I had just learned, they were going to learn it that day. We started, and we didn't get our rehearsal till after 5. We were taught that song. Claudia, sometimes it was 2 songs.
Oh, we learned more.
Yeah, to minister on Sunday. So, and I got kind of my ideas of a good choir director from Helen Stevens, being around her for years, James Cleveland, because you know he didn't play either, and that's where I got most of my experience from.
And so because y'all had a disciplined choir and you had committed choir members, and then you were such a perfectionist, talk about the recordings y'all did.
Ooh, okay. Claudia has the album. I don't even have a CD of the choir recording. But
Okay.
one of my former choir members came to me. He now pastors in Daytona Beach, Florida.
Okay.
Kenny came to me and said, Albert, you need to record this choir. I said, huh? I wouldn't think about no recording because I don't. My thing is I like to elevate other people. Not me. I'm just a mediocre. Let me put you up on where you need to be. So he
Mm-hmm.
came to me with the idea to record the choir, and we raised the money,
Mm-hmm.
and we did the recording. Claudia, I don't know how many songs I wrote. Two, maybe two.
I think it was 3, AJ.
Oh, okay. And one song that I had written when I was in college, "Don't Worry About Tomorrow," and
Mm-hmm.
it was a good experience.
Mm-hmm.
We worked on it. We had to go do studio time, and we would have been probably a recording executive came from Chicago.
Okay.
He had heard our CD.
Okay.
And the only reason why we didn't become recording artists is because the church stopped it because they thought I was going to do something else. Although they made all the money off of I'm just telling the truth, they made all the money off of the recording. We didn't
Yeah.
receive anything. But so the executive just left from Chicago. I didn't hear from him anymore because the church was sending him through so much. So I tried to call him. He said, and the secretary said he's not in. So that I said, okay, that's the end of that. But it was a good experience, and the from what I can hear, the CD from people who've received the CD said it's a remarkable CD.
Mm-hmm.
We won through that CD. We won the right to appear with Kirk Franklin when he was doing a concert at Fort Hood.
Okay.
And so we earned the right to do that. And
Okay.
that's all I can remember about the CD, unless Claudia can remember something. I don't remember anything else.
What you say, Claudia?
I said that was a long time ago. It was a great experience for us, though. You know, it was a lot of work, and because of Albert's affiliation with the Gospel Music Workshop,
Mm-hmm.
it exposed us to so much. And I mean, like, a lot of different writers and everything came to Colleen and submitted their songs for us to sing. So for me, it was a very humbling experience, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that that we had. I just think that for a lot of things that we did, I believe that we were kind of sort of maybe like ahead of our time. We didn't, you know,
Mm-hmm.
we just wanted to sing and be with
Right.
each other, and we was happy.
Right. 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 And so y'all only did the one recording?
Actually,
We actually did two, but
we did too.
the second
Yeah.
one has been tabled, and it's been tabled for some years because I just hadn't had the energy, or whatever happened transpired at Anderson Chapel kind of diverted us. But it was all good.
Okay. And so y'all got a whole album that's just kind of sitting there?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can I get a copy?
You
Sure.
have to call. You have to call Apostle Kennedy Jacobs.
Okay.
He has it.
Man, because I bet you it's some very good churchy music on there, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think one of the members has a copy of it, and yeah, it would have been great if we were able to financially complete the project.
Okay. And so along with you being at Anderson Chapel, you became the music director for the 10th district of the AME Church. Tell us about that.
By pure accident, I was assistant for a few years, and the director decided to step down. Bishop John Bryant was our bishop at that time, and
Mm-hmm.
I think Bishop John stayed here for over 10 years
Mm-hmm.
in the 10th district. And he said, "Would you want the job?" I said, "Okay." And he called me from, I don't know where, Nashville or somewhere, to get on a plane and meet him and this at this meeting where he was over the music ministry as a bishop, and he didn't have a representative. So I became that person because I was available. And I traveled all over the state of Texas to rehearse different folk for our state conferences. So it was an experience, and I enjoyed it, and I'm finished with it.
Now, how long were you the music director?
Oh, for over 10 years.
Okay. And so tell us about some of the things you did as a music director.
I had to go and teach new music. And I tried to set it up like Texas Mass or the Gospel Music Workshop. I allowed other musicians from different churches to present their music. But the final say-so was mine. What were we going to do in worship? If it wasn't a worship song, we didn't do it. I didn't like all that other stuff. You know, if it was a good worship song that I like to see the people enjoy, we did it. So it was a great experience. And I drug Anderson Chapel Choir everywhere, all over the state of Texas. Sometimes the Anderson Chapel Choir was the 10th District Choir.
So now was the 10th District only Texas?
Only Texas.
Okay.
So it was a vast area to cover. So after a while, I got a little tired. So I said, you know.
And so y'all, so at the annual conference every year, you were in charge of the music?
No, not the annual conference, the 10th District conferences.
Okay.
There's a difference, you know. I think I'm kind of still involved with our conference music, but since the pandemic, we haven't done anything. But yeah, it's great. I love my church, and I love what I do, and I'm glad to have had this break.
So now, as a music director for the 10th District, how far did you have to go to work with the choirs?
Ooh. Sometimes I'd have to drive to Houston. I know we went to Houston a few times for rehearsal only. And a few times, then I know we had to go to San Antonio for rehearsal. We had to go to Dallas for rehearsal a lot of times because Bishop Jones was becoming inducted as the president of the Bishops' Council. So that they wanted the choir together. So I chose Dallas as an area, since we were going to be singing in Dallas, as an area of where we rehearse and pull those choirs together for that area. Whatever area I had to serve in, if it's Houston, I pulled the Houston people in. San Antonio, I pulled the San Antonio people in. And anybody else traveled could come and be a part of it because it would be the same music that I taught to the previous city. That's how that worked.
And so at the time, and so you said the district conference and the annual conference were two different things?
Right.
Okay, so what was the annual conference?
Ooh, Claudia. The annual conference is a number of churches in a certain area become a conference.
Right.
Okay.
And usually it's two different districts come together as an annual conference.
Okay.
I don't recall being over the music.
Well, back then there was no conference choir.
Yeah.
It was mostly like whatever church was hosting the annual conference, their church mostly did the music.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for the way out of that one.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So you were pretty busy, and so you worked with the 10th District Choir.
Yes.
And then, so let's get to Texas Mass, the Texas Mass Choir. You were one of the founding members, along with some
I actually came on after Texas Mass was formed. I
Okay.
came on, about a year into it. I came on, and at that time, to be a member of the board of Texas Mass, I don't know how it's operating now. You had to be a chapter rep. So I became a chapter rep in order to be a part of the Texas Mass. I enjoyed my years with the Texas Mass. I really did.
But you organized the Killeen chapter, is that right?
Yes, yes. What would we call, Claudia?
KCH.
KCH. Killeen, Coppers Cove, Harker Heights area chapter.
Okay. And so how did you do that? How did you get everybody together to start that?
Oh, Claudia's gonna have to tell me with this. I pulled together musicians from different churches.
Okay.
To form the board.
Okay.
I remember we met at somebody's apartment.
Yours.
I can't remember who it was, but anyway, I pulled in Mother Lillian Billy. I think Doris Ellis.
Right.
And I can't remember what other musician there was.
Trying to think of who it was.
I can't remember. It's been a while. So, eventually they left because they didn't understand that being a part of the gospel music workshop, we had fees to pay. It was not free. All they want to do is come together and sing. No, we got to pool some money together. That means we have to have membership dues and all of that. So I enjoyed that experience as well.
And so you got the musicians together from the different cities. So now Coppers Cove, where is that?
West of Killeen, about 10 miles.
You drive out of one city right into the next.
Yeah, I mean it just
it's all connected together.
Yeah.
And you said Harker Heights.
Harker Heights. It's 5 minutes up the street from me.
Okay. Yeah, okay. And so from those different cities, y'all formed the board and formed the chapter in that area.
Right.
And so at the time that your chapter joined Texas Mass, had they already done the recording?
No, we were part of that. I remember that. Was it the first recording? I can't remember. I know
Mass, we hadn't recorded yet.
Okay, because Ernest Pugh before he became who he is today, asked me if he could present a song to Texas Mass. And I said yes. And if you ever talk to him, he'll tell you about that experience. I told him this is what you have to do for me. You have to join the chapter. You have to pay your dues, and you got to be on time for rehearsal. I was strict about that then too. So he did. And I don't remember the name of the song, but he asked me to direct it. As you said, it got in the house. The song got in the house. That's all I remember.
So was it on the first album they recorded?
I think so. Was it, Claudia? I can't remember.
They did, yeah, because they were really excited about it. Ernest was, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think the first recording, and I saw a copy of that album somewhere. I think they recorded it either 83, 84, or 85.
Ooh, that was a long time ago.
Long time.
Because I know on the back of that album cover, you were part of that board.
Right.
Yeah, that's back in the 80s.
Yeah.
That's in the 80s.
And so what was Texas Mass like back then?
It was so much fun. Of course, I was a clown.
Yes. That's what Texas Mass.
I was a clown because I don't like for meetings to be too stiff. I get nervous. If there's no laughter, there's no fun, because if you're not having fun in what you're doing, then you're doing it for all the wrong reasons. But it was fun for me. It was a way of fellowship. I got to know a lot of people from different areas. And we as chapter reps then were very close. And it was just a great experience. Great.
Terry Swift was on with us. Are you still on with us, Terry? I know Terry, I think, was one of the founding members or one of the board members of Texas Mass. I'm not sure. I know Terry is on that album cover too.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I met Terry.
And so some of the people back then I know was Reverend Eddie Templeton,
Right.
Roland Pollard,
Yes.
Miss Kelly, Mr. U.R. Rivers, who was the first president of Texas
Right.
Mass.
Now he was the original.
I think Mr. Rivers is the one who actually pulled Texas Mass together.
Right.
I believe he was the founding person of Texas Mass.
He was one of the founders of Texas Mass, correct.
Gary Gibbons from San Antonio.
Yes, Gary.
Miss Leida from Houston.
I remember Leida.
Who else was? I mean, just so many.
So many I can't remember.
But yeah, and so I know that you were very integral in Texas Mass and forming that chapter.
Yeah.
And so, one of the things I enjoyed, again, was the camaraderie of Texas Mass. And, it's kind of funny. I wasn't initially trying to join Texas Mass. Just so happened, one weekend, Dwight Taylor and I, we drove down to Houston, and we picked up Paul Bigham in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't even really going to Texas Mass, but Paul was presenting.
Excuse me.
Okay, Paul was presenting at Texas Mass, and so we drove on down to Beaumont, where Paul Bigham had recorded Jesus Is My Best Friend on that first album. And so I knew the song. I had never been to Texas Mass. I ended up playing the organ. Dwight Taylor was on piano and Paul directed. And so after that experience with Texas Mass, I started going. Sister Terry Swift said Gary Givens from San Antonio. Yep. Tim's from Houston. Yeah, I remember Brother Tim's. Gary Blevins from Tyler.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you for those names, Sister Terry.
And Gary Givens was one of the presenters of a song on our first recording at Anderson. Yeah.
Oh, Gary was?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it was just a great time, some great people. And so even at the National, did you hold any position or office at the National?
No, I was just a plain old chapter rep.
Mm-hmm.
Plain old chapter rep. That's all I was, and I enjoyed that because I enjoyed going to the workshop just to get the new music and bring it back to the city where some music that people it hadn't been recorded and hadn't been released, and I think that's why people were kind of envious of us because they say, "Where did you get that song from?" Join the Clean Chapter and go to the Gospel Music Workshop. You will find some good music.
So now I'm gonna put you on the spot, Brother Albert Joe. I'm gonna put you on the spot. So now, does your chapter still exist?
No, it does not.
Okay.
They do have a chapter in Harkahite, I understand. I was invited to join that, but I declined. I've done my work as a chapter rep. Mm-hmm. I've raised the money. I've taken the people there. I've done enough. So,
So hopefully, because man, again, you're one of the founders, and you know how to do it. You know how it's done. You know what to do and what not to do.
Right.
One of the things with the Gospel Music Workshop is, it's sort of lost something but I believe that through great leadership, it can be rebuilt.
Yeah.
There's another generation, like this new generation that's coming along about Reverend James Cleveland. They don't know who Bishop Albert Jameson is. They don't know who Charles Nix was.
Right.
Some of the great Robert Fryson. They don't know who Robert Fryson was, but these are people that paved the way, for them to come along and do what they do.
Right. Right.
I say this often on this program, that we should not forget those who paved the way for us. And if we don't keep them on people's minds, people will forget.
Right. Sure
They'll
will.
start thinking that everything started when they arrived.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the case. But listen, man, boy, it is 10 o'clock. And man, it has been such a pleasure interviewing you. I've been trying for a year now to get you on. And you say, oh, well, my story isn't that great. But you have an incredible story. Brother Jerry Allen Perry is on with us. Thank you for joining us, Brother Jerry Perry. He said, what's up, Bishop Reed? Sister Terry Swift said, ask him about ULRGC. I think she said UL Rivers Gospel Choir.
Yeah. I first saw the UL Rivers Gospel Choir in concert in Midland, Texas at Ideal Baptist Church. I think I was about 17. I was so impressed, with that choir. And after they sang, I went up to you, Mr. Rivers, and introduced myself. And we became friends, and we've been friends ever since. Yeah, the UL Rivers Gospel Choir. I even joined when I was in college and traveled with them to Ohio, to Mr. Rivers' home, and had to lead a song, what was Give Me a Clean Heart. I was so nervous, but I enjoyed my time with the UL Rivers Gospel Choir. Huh?
I said, you going to sing a little bit of it?
Don't you try
it. Well, listen, man, and that's the thing, Brother Albert Joe, over the years, meeting people, the different places, and Claudia can attest to this. She talked about having lived in Germany. When I had the opportunity to go to Germany, I saw how the families came together at the different military bases.
Right.
And they were a family. I remember while we were there, we went to a barbecue, and that was because the families got together every weekend and did something.
Right.
And then just hearing your story and what you did at the church with the people on the military base. And then just relationship. That's where I'm going with all of this. We built relationships. Before Pajama Praise, I had not seen you in years.
I know.
Had not seen you in years, but in Texas Mass, man, I remember just fellowshipping with you and you cutting up at Texas Mass and the National, just having everybody dying laughing, and you've not changed over all these years.
If I do, they'll be saying, what's wrong with him? He must be sick.
But listen, man, I so appreciate you taking out of your busy schedule to do this. I mean, you have an incredible legacy, Brother Albert Joe.
I thank you, and I'm honored that you asked me.
Listen, hopefully you guys will write your stories down. Write your stories down. Albert Joe Reed, write your story down. Brother Jerry Allen Perry, write your story down. Terry Swift, write your story down. Reverend Joe Foster, write your story down. Sister Gwen McWilliams, write your story down. Tony Looper, write your story down. Everybody, Veronica Livingston, write your story down. Listen, there's a generation that's coming. For the month of May, it was commemoration month, and we remembered musicians of the past.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we brought on people who talked about them. But you know what? Some of those people were very integral people in forming what we know as gospel music, you know, on the city, state, and national level. And some of these people will never be heard of again. And so, you know, that's why I'm asking you guys. Tanya Egler from Wheaton College, Wheaton, Illinois, write your story down. Tell your story and leave it for the generation that's coming. That is my charge to you guys. Again, I like to watch TV. I watch a lot of TV. I do a lot of reading. And so I read about people and watch movies about people and documentaries. But listen, man, one of the most incredible documentaries and programs that comes on is Pajama Praise, because you guys tell your story. I mean, you know, we know that you're Albert Joe, and we know that you can play. We know that you played for Anderson Chapel. But who would have known that you were a recording artist? I mean, you formed all these groups. I mean, you served over the 10th District Music Department, you know, for all those years. You organized the chapter there in that area. I mean, this is incredible history. And so,
Thank you.
I hope you guys write your story down. I hope you leave it for the generation coming. Look, don't decide that what you did was not that important, because it was. And that song, Let Mount Zion Rejoice, what did I say? That ye may tell it. Generations follow. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's actually a passage in the Bible. That's not just a part of the song. That's a passage in the Bible.
Right.
And so Brother Albert Joe, give us a closing thought, sir.
Well, again, I'd like to thank you for this opportunity, although I don't feel that I'm that important. And I've always tried to elevate others because I wanted them to be elevated. And I know what the Bible says about your talents will speak for you, in a sense. And I've always sat in the back, and I've always been called to the front. And it's been a pleasure serving in my capacity, because somebody said, "You supposed to be a preacher." I said, "No, he ain't called me to do that. He called me to do what I'm doing, because I've seen a lot of artists come through my area, and all I want to do is promote them, not for any money, not for any gratification, because it made me feel good to do what I do. So it's been an honor, and I'm happy to serve. We didn't talk about it. I'm happy to serve the people at Adams Chapel AME Church in Harker Heights, and the pastor is Reverend Silas Swint, and I'm kind of old school, and he is too, and he enjoys the music, and I appreciate that, because when I was coming along, I know you didn't ask for all this, but when I was coming along, I wasn't allowed to play for the church until I learned how to read music. I had to learn first, and then they allowed me to play for the church. And these musicians today, those requirements are not necessary anymore, which is sad to me. That's why the hymns of the church are dying, because our musicians are not knowledgeable of the hymns. They can't read them. They don't even know them when they hear them. But I for all you people who are out there listening, please encourage your musicians to learn how to read and know these hymns of the church. Because somebody asked me, Bishop Vashti Murphy McKenzie asked me to please not let the hymns die in the church. I need help. You know, I need help.
And you know what, Brother Albert Joe, one of my arguments is the young people don't know them because they've not been taught them,
Right.
And it's not been a requirement or a standard. Whatever you make a standard, then that's what people will have to live up to.
Correct.
When a lot of churches started with praise and worship, it was like the hymns became irrelevant. But I also blame the musicians and the preachers because you have to stick it in the service. We do a morning hymn at my church. We do hymns throughout the service. I do some hymns they've never heard before, but they learn them.
Right.
So we go back, as you said, make that the standard, so they will be right. And we talked about this on Pajama Praise a couple of weeks ago. The musicians need to learn how to read the music, because the hymns will be lost. You'll be sitting there looking at a hymnal and can't do nothing with it.
Right. Right. True.
And so, even through this program, maybe that's something that we can work on. Maybe I can bring you here to this area to do a hymn workshop. No, seriously. Seriously. That's something we need to talk about, Brother Alva Joe.
That's one.
Yes, sir.
You heard him commit to it, didn't you, Claudia?
I'm just sitting up here. I'm already praying. I always tell him he needs to
got
go.
the best person in that area, Gwen McWilliams. The best person in that area is Gwen McWilliams. Now she can do that. Yes.
Well, we're gonna bring you here too to work with Sister Gwen McWilliams and some of the others.
We work well together. We do.
All right, we're gonna make it happen. We will make it happen.
Okay.
But again, thank you guys so much for taking out of your time to do this. You know what? I am always inspired from this show because listening to you guys talk and hearing your stories, gives me energy and inspiration to go on, because I know there's so much that has been done, but there's so much we got to do.
Right.
So stay in fellowship and in contact. Minister Claudia Durant, tell us what you're doing down in Houston before we go.
Ooh, I'm almost about as bad as Albert in a sense. I've gotten tired, but I am with the praise team at the church where I am at St. Paul here in Houston. So just kind of low key, like I told him, I said, baby, I've been singing for years, and I'm just kind of just kind of slowed down with that.
Mm-hmm. Well, listen, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Sister Gwen McWilliams, Pastor Cheryl Matlock, maybe we can do our hymn workshop over at Allen Chapel. I would love that. They've got the pipe organ over there too. And maybe we can, once we get through COVID, let's just do it. Just do it. Some things will never be done unless we do it. And so we got Brother Jerry Perry, Sister Terry on with us, Miss Gwen McWilliams, some of the other musicians. We've got some great singers on with us tonight. And so we just need to do it. Just do it. We'll make it happen. Dr. Cheryl Matlock said, come on. And so we're going to do it. That's a commitment. We got the facility. We got the musicians. We're going to bring in the singers. All right?
All right.
Listen, y'all, thank y'all so much for joining us for Pajama Praise tonight. Thank you each week for sharing, taking out your time to be with us, to hear the incredible stories of people that paved the way, as the song said years ago, waymakers. Thank you, Sister Patrice Reed, Dr. Cheryl Matlock, Sister Gwen Williams, Pastor Joe Foster is on with us again tonight. Brother Jerry Allen Perry, he was our guest several months ago telling his incredible story. Sister Terry Swift Gadsden, Miss Charmian Johnson Polk, who also attended Paul Quinn College. Brother Tony Looper, one of the great musicians. Sister Vicki Brown, I see you there. My cousin, Sister Tammy Washington, the women's ministry leader at Greater Mount Tabor Full Gospel Baptist. Miss Veronica Livingston Fulton, one of the great musicians here in the city. Mr. James Rice, one of the leaders. Miss Tanya Eckler, all the way from Wheaton, Illinois. Dr. Kim Scales. Sister Sheila Bryce, one of the great singers. Brother Albert Joe, you need to invite Sheila Bryce to your church. She's an incredible singer. She's one of the original members of the family, of Kirk Franklin and the family. Minister Mary White, one of the ministers at our church. First Lady Krista Daniels, one of the civic workers here in the city. And so many, Mr. Kenneth Carr, one of my members, and my choir members at my church. Sister Diane Murray, one of the members of the St. John Church in Grand Prairie. So many others. Sister Naomi Hill. So many people. Sister Bertha Johnson. I want to call everybody's name before we left because everybody is important. Everybody is important. And I know that your time is valuable. But again, y'all, thank you all for joining us. Join us for Pajama Praise next Monday. I'll let you know who our guest is going to be. Brother Albert Joe, thank you. Sister Claudia, thank you. That's the end of our session tonight. Listen, y'all sleep well tonight. The rain is gone for a minute. So enjoy your night. Good night.
Good night.